Hey everybody, I hope you are doing as well out there as anybody can be doing right now. I know a lot of you are running into really big challenges in all sorts of different ways. And I think at a time like this, we can really worry about the changes happening around us, the challenges happening around us, interfering with the work we're doing to care for our mental health, to improve it. We start to worry about all of this stuff, taking away the supports that we brought into our lives to maintain recovery, or we worry that this has just become another barrier we've got to overcome as we're already working on pretty big challenges in our lives, which is something I know so many of you out there, if you've been following this channel, I know lots of you are already doing incredibly challenging things and succeeding with that. And so it's natural that at a time like this fear comes up. Oh no, like what if the quarantine, what if the pandemic, all of this stuff, what if it wrecks my progress with recovery? So I want to address that in this video. And the first thing I want to say is that values and doing the things we value has always been about context. It's always been about where we find ourselves. They're not static. Values aren't static. They're not fused with something. It's not about saying, oh no, now because of lockdown, I can't go to my Tuesday night lawn bowling club, which means I'm not going to be able to achieve my goal this year of winning the championships. What is the meaning of life? Life is like navigating a wilderness, and there are many different types of terrain in that wilderness. There are rivers and lakes and mountains and swamps and snake pits and donut shops. And if you were just crossing a lake, you might have learned some skills how to do that. You'd learn how to swim. Maybe you'd get some tools to help you, wear some flippers. And so you cross the lake. When you get to the other side of the lake, you move on to another piece of terrain in the wilderness of life. Maybe it's a cliff. So you don't go up to the cliff with your swimming flippers on and try to scale the cliff. You don't say, I value swimming, so I'm going to swim up this cliff. What you value is moving through the wilderness in a particular direction. And that's what you did on the lake. Swimming was an action. The flippers were a tool. They helped you move in the direction you valued, given the context in which you found yourself. That was an effective way to cross that terrain. Now you've come to another piece of terrain. You need to climb a cliff to keep going in that direction you want to go, that direction you value. So you're going to learn new actions and use different equipment. You don't just put on climbing shoes and some climbing gear and then try to butterfly stroke your way up the cliff. Of course that doesn't work. But so often in life, that's what we do, and then we say there's something wrong with us. But there's nothing wrong with us just because our old habits aren't effective in our present reality. We change what we're doing to suit the terrain we find ourselves in. So if you're stuck at home alone with nothing to do because you just lost your job, or you're trying to hold your small business together while also becoming a teacher to a bunch of kids and care for your high-risk parents, or you're working in an ICU right now and experiencing things you've never experienced in your life and never expected to, and you're just trying to get your basic needs met. The direction we move is still the same. It is simply that the terrain has changed. Our brains haven't moved. I pretty much probably guarantee it that your brain is still in the exact same spot it was when this all started. Where we are, doing what we're doing, is where we do the work on our mental health. And it helped me so much to understand that's only ever about one thing. Working on my mental health is about how I interact with the experiences inside and outside of my head. That's it. And right now, we are still all having experiences. And we are all still interacting with experiences. And that work continues. Maybe a few months ago, you were really anxious about relationships and social interactions. What if people judge me? What if everybody hates me? What if I'm not good enough for my coworkers? What if my relationship isn't the right relationship? All sorts of anxieties like that. And so you were going out into public and really pushing against those fears. So you were cutting out all the compulsions around that. You weren't rereading emails. You weren't asking for reassurance. You weren't checking to see who was looking at you and how they were looking at you. You weren't ruminating over what you said at some party a week ago or 2 years ago. You weren't kind of lying and manipulating people to make sure they thought about you in a particular way. You weren't avoiding posting on social media or trying to control how you presented yourself on social media and any of the stuff like that. Now maybe you don't have a lot of social interaction happening. Hopefully you don't have a lot of stuff happening out, like at parties, events, things in public. Maybe you're not around your coworkers all the time, all of that kind of stuff. So what's happening now? The brain has just moved on to another bad thing that could happen. Things like the fear of relapse. Oh no, because of this bad thing is going to happen that you don't control. Right? It's exactly the same. The fear is always just a variable. Right? Look at it. You have the exact same opportunity here to cut out all of the same compulsions. You don't have to go online checking things, or you don't have to be checking yourself constantly to make sure that relapse isn't happening. You don't have to be asking for reassurance. You don't have to be ruminating over things to make sure that something isn't going bad. Oh no, is it coming back? Comparing how you feel with other times, how you felt. Is this the same? Because of course, if you do compulsions like that, inevitably, chasing certainty like that, you're going to find things that are only going to make you more upset. All of that judging and thinking and comparing, the meanings we attach to these types of things, just like we might attach meaning to a failure in front of other people. Oh no, are they going to judge me? Are they going to hate me? We do the exact same thing with relapse. Like, oh no, if that failure happens, what's it going to mean? What's it mean about me? It is 100% the same. And you can really see how the brain loves to simply go searching for a new fear, a new uncertainty that we'll react to. And here, because things are a bit different right now, it easily finds one that will automatically say, whoa, that's a bad thing. You're right. This situation's different. I don't want to I don't want that to happen. So it's okay to do the compulsions right now. And of course, reacting to the fear takes us into the very situation that we're afraid of. Nothing has changed. In fact, if anything, it's so amazing that we have these spectacular creative brains, that everything else in the world is kind of in chaos and changing and unprecedented, but the brain just quickly looks at what's going on and finds an uncertainty for us to do compulsions around it. It's like, here, obsess about this, control this. Brains are wonderful. So the work stays the same. We experience uncertainty. We experience difficult emotions, thoughts, or voices. We notice them. We notice that urge coming up in us to engage in coping and checking and controlling behaviors. But then we choose to do something different. We choose to embrace whatever those difficult experiences are, and we choose to put our time and energy towards something we value in the context we find ourselves right now. And yeah, that's a practice. Really, just like when you're in the wilderness, that first time you come up against that cliff, yep, maybe you don't know how to climb it yet. But again, you don't just say, oh, the first time I tried mountain climbing, I failed. Therefore, there is something wrong with me and this means something. Right? Of course it doesn't work. We have to learn. And it's not a reason to just say, oh, like I can't go in the direction of the things I value because the terrain is different now. And I only know how to navigate the terrain where I was before. We don't have to be perfect at this stuff at all. We can be curious and we can learn. In fact, it'd be really weird if you were just going through the forest and you magically, without any practice, knew how to swim and climb mountains and swing through the branches of trees. Like nobody is like that. It's a process, and that process is difficult. And we don't just say, oh, this is difficult, so I can't do it. No, if something is difficult, that means you have to practice it more. It's like self-compassion. If you find self-compassion difficult, practice every day. Practice for longer every day. It's just like any skill you want to get good at. So we always look at the terrain. We look at the context around us. We get curious about it. We practice. We figure out ways to give our time and energy to the things we value, to moving in the directions we value, in directions that are useful to ourselves and to our communities. So here's an exercise that everybody can do. Grab a paper, grab pen, marker, stuff to draw with, and draw the terrain. Where are you right now? Map it out. What's the context around you? Maybe you're planning to climb this cliff and you knew it was a cliff and you're like, I'm going to learn how to mountain climb, but there's a storm now. And it just doesn't make sense to be climbing the cliff. So we've actually got to readjust our goals to gathering materials together, supports that we can use for shelter. And that's got to be the focus right now. But maybe that's something we've never done. So how can we get curious about taking shelter? How can we get curious about building the best shelter possible? What actions do you want to take? What barriers are going to get in the way, and how are you going to overcome them? Are they barriers that you need to blow up, or are there barriers that you can walk around? Maybe you had plans to cross a river, and you've been building a bridge across the river for years, and the storm, it's washed your bridge away. Are you going to start over? Or is there another way that you can cross that river? Or is there maybe even another way you can go in the direction you value and go around the river completely? Now is the time to get curious about that. Draw it out, really see it, understand it. What are the supports you need to bring in place? And really answer the question of, how am I going to thrive today where I am doing what I'm doing?